The world weakens you by keeping you visible. People do not need to destroy you when they can train you to perform, confess, and beg for approval until your mind becomes a prisoner of their reactions. Every crowd teaches dependency. Every distraction teaches fragility. Every conversation leaks power. And the reason that isolation is not punishment, it is a pressure chamber. When the noise disappears, your excuses do too. There is nowhere left to hide behind your personality, your humor, your social value, or the mask you wear to survive other people's expectations. In solitude, you meet the raw material of your own mind. At first, that meeting is humiliating. You notice how often you seek permission to exist. You notice how quickly boredom turns into panic. You notice that your thoughts are not thoughts at all, but borrowed scripts from family, culture, ex-friends, and old wounds. This is where the weak collapse. They call loneliness poison because they are addicted to being reflected back to themselves. They need applause to believe their own name. They need attention to feel real. But the isolated mind begins to separate essence from performance. It asks a brutal question. If nobody is watching, what remains? And if the answer is shallow, good. That means you have found the starting point. You do not build an unbreakable mind by adding more noise. You build it by removing the narcotic of social validation until your inner life becomes impossible to ignore. The first enemy in isolation is not sadness, it is withdrawal. Your brain has been conditioned to outsource regulation to other people. A message arrives and you feel alive. A silence appears and you feel erased. That is not personality. That is dependence dressed up as sensitivity. When you isolate yourself long enough, the nervous system begins to complain because it has lost its favorite machine, the machine of constant reassurance. This is why most people sabotage solitude. They call someone, they scroll, they flirt, they argue, they re-enter the social bloodstream before the poison leaves their system. But if you stay still long enough, a different phenomenon begins. The mind, denied entertainment, starts generating truth. Regret surfaces, ambition surfaces, shame surfaces, not as enemies, but as evidence. Your private world is revealing where your life is leaking. Think about your own life right now. What part of your identity only exists when someone else acknowledges it? What opinion do you defend because you are terrified of being ordinary? The answers are uncomfortable because isolation strips away performance and leaves only pattern. And here is the part no one wants to admit. Most suffering is not caused by pain, it is caused by interpretation. In isolation, you discover that your mind has been exaggerating, dramatizing, and negotiating with fear for years. The same event that once felt catastrophic becomes manageable when nobody is feeding it attention. A text left unanswered, a room full of strangers, a failed conversation. These things are not fatal. They become fatal only when you make them your identity. Solitude forces a reclassification of reality. You begin to see that embarrassment is temporary, but self-betrayal is structural. You begin to understand that the greatest threat to your future is not rejection, it is adaptation to weakness. If every uncomfortable moment sends you running back to the crowd, then the crowd owns your nervous system. If every quiet hour makes you uncomfortable, then silence has become your mirror. This is why isolation is dangerous in the best possible way. It reveals the scale of your dependence. It exposes how much of your confidence was borrowed. And once that illusion dies, you can start building something real, internal authority that does not rise and fall with the room. The unbreakable mind is not emotionless. It is sovereign. It feels deeply, but it does not beg reality to be gentler. It observes without collapsing. It suffers without self-deception. It moves without needing applause. That level of strength is impossible in a life designed around constant contact because other people create constant interference. They give you their fears, their labels, their doubts, and their narratives until your internal compass starts pointing outward instead of inward. Isolation reorients the compass. It teaches you to hear your own voice beneath the static. The first breakthrough is always frightening because silence removes all camouflage. There is no audience to impress, no competition to outrun, no social script to hide inside. You are left with discipline, memory, and the consequences of your choices. But that is exactly why the isolated mind becomes dangerous in the strongest sense of the word. It becomes difficult to manipulate. A person who can sit alone without escaping is no longer easy to control. A person who can face boredom without panic is no longer easy to seduce. A person who can confront their own weakness without running from it is no longer easy to break. The final transformation happens when solitude stops feeling like emptiness and starts feeling like command. You no longer enter silence to suffer. You enter it to calibrate. You train there, you read there, you think there, you rebuild your standards there. The room becomes a forge and your attention becomes the hammer. And then the mind changes in a way most people will never understand. Because it no longer asks, how do I fit in? It asks, what is worthy of my time? That single shift separates the fragile from the formidable. Once you stop begging reality for permission, you become hard to move. Once you stop needing to be witnessed, you become impossible to manipulate. Once you stop fearing your own company, you stop being owned by other people's presence. Isolation is not the absence of life. It is the battlefield where your identity is stripped, tested, and reforged. Stay long enough, and you will meet the version of yourself that no crowd could ever create. Isolation does not make you weaker. It makes you precise. It cuts away dependence, reveals your true hierarchy of values, and forces your mind to stand on its own legs. If you want to go deeper into the psychology of control, discipline, and self-command, study the work. To master these tactics in real life, get the Silent Observer's Playbook, or check out the recommended reading in the description below. Like and subscribe for more.